Okay, I'm going to do a bone video on the appendicular skeleton. I'm going to start off with the pectoral girdle. So when I think of pecs, these are our pecs. And the acromial end of the clavicle is here, and the sternum end of the clavicle is here. Now I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to draw your attention toward the scapula. And this is the posterior side of the scapula. So the most obvious view from the posterior is the spine. So the spine runs diagonally across the posterior surface. But on the scapula, first we'll start off with the superior angle here. And then we have our coracoid process, which is here. And in our coracoid process, we have our acromion, which is over here. And then we have our glenoid cavity, which is over here. You can see it's a little small, but I'll try my best to point that out. Then we have our supraspinatus fossa, which is in here. We have our superior notch, which is down in here, this little tiny notch. We have our infraspinatus fossa, which is in this area here. We have our medial border, and we have our lateral border, and then we have our spine here, and we have our sternoclavicular joint, which is going to be up here, and then we have our acromioclavicular joint, which is going to be here. So that's pretty nice for our scapula here. Now we're going to bring our attention toward the humerus. So I've actually taken apart my skeletal system to show you the humerus. So this part is the humerus here. With the humerus, it articulates proximately with the scapula. So if I were to have my skeletal system here, it articulates with our scapula and distally with the ulna and the radius. So, the radius and the ulna here. So to start off with the humerus, we have, I'm looking at it anteriorly. So we have our greater tubercle here. We have our intertubercle groove in here. We have our lesser tubercle here. We have our anatomical neck here. This is our head over here. This is our shaft area. So right in our shaft area we have our deltoid tuberosity. Also our little radial groove is in here. Then we're going to go to the bottom. So we have our radial fossa in here. We have our trochlea here. We have our capitulum here. So a little bit down further. We have our medial epicondyle. We have our coronoid fossa. And let's see, we have our lateral epicondyle here. And our trochlea, so I'm going to just turn it around. Looking at it posteriorly, our trochlea is a little easier to see, is here. So that's pretty much it for our humerus, which is our upper arm bone. Now we're going to go with the femur. So this is our femur bone here. Now with our femur, Our femur is the thigh bone, and it is the longest and the heaviest and the strongest bone in the body. So I'm looking at our femur anteriorly. As you can see, his foot is facing forward. But with our femur, we have our head here. So this is our head. This is our neck here. So this being our femoral head. We have our greater trochanter here. And we have our lesser trochanter over here. So this little one over here when I point it here. So this is our lesser trochanter, and then we have our greater trochanter here. We have our shaft, which is again this middle section. We have our patellar surface, which is under here. And then when I point this here, we have our lateral epicondyle. We have our lateral condyle here. So lateral epicondyle, lateral condyle. Then over here it's going to be our medial epicondyle, followed by our medial condyle. Then this tiny thing up in here is our adductor tubercle. And with our adductor tubercle, that is the head or the femur articulates with the acetabulum of the coxal bone. So back up in this area. So this is pretty much it for the femur, other than, of course, the patellar, which is right in the center, the patellar surface here. So that's pretty much it for our femur. Now we're going to go with